Assalamu alaikum. Are y'all alive this morning? In the name of Allah, the beneficent and merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that He appeared among us in the personage of Master Farad Muhammad. I further bear witness that He came 9,000 miles to raise and seek out and find one, and the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the two of them left a divine reminder in our midst, in the hard-working Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is in their names and in their spirit that I greet my believing family in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. If you can give all of our speakers a round of applause, Sister Aliyah, Brother Rashad, Brother Tariq, for trying to convey over to us that which will get us rotating and moving. God didn't travel 9,000 miles to set up a church. Y'all hear? God didn't travel 9,000 miles to set up a church. He didn't seek out those who are at the bottom rail to raise them to the top to build a church. In the contemporary definition of what a church is. You understand? Which would be the organized manner of the slave master, of how to worship God. Come on Sunday because you off. Sit there. You don't have any interest in building anything of your own because the slave master builds everything for you. He feeds you. He actually had the food weighed out portions, just like they do in the food program today, to serve you and I, to make sure that we would be magnificent, healthy, and ready to build His kingdom at the sound of a whip. You understand? God came for you and I, that we may do something for ourselves. Turn us into a righteous society and lead the world by example. He says in the Holy Quran that He made us tribes and nations that we may learn from one another. That means our differences are beneficial and not a detriment, if you understand what I mean. That means if someone else can do something better than I can do it, they're part of the team, so I cheer them on, right? And I show appreciation since they are putting group efforts and group ambitions and group success over individual efforts, and individual successes, right? God came to make us one as a group and not as a bunch of individuals who can operate as a team. Y'all understand? Almighty God, Allah, who appeared to us in the personage of Master Farad Muhammad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, I can prove who my God is. Now you bring me yours. Show and prove what your God is, right? And so that is what our subject matter is going to be about today, the fundamental principles of Islam and how it has always been the way that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that God is a man, a human being. We should tell you and I that this body is divine. It has a time capsule on it, but it is divine. You understand? That we are made, since we are from the original type, from the best material that can house the spirit, the electricity of God. Y'all with me? He also taught us that Master Farad Muhammad taught him that the universe is governed by thought. The power of the brain floating on water right? Which needs copper to regulate the system. So you got to know yourself. And the periodic table that we probably didn't pay attention to too much in 8th grade, but that's where science gets into the periodic table, which is every element, every gas that is found in your body is found in the universe, showing you that the human being is divine. As you can see on the front page of the Final Call newspaper, it says, our sentence, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is saying, our sentence in America is up. God has come for the black man and woman. By the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on page 20. And what do we see? In Houston, Texas, what do we see? Hurricane, flooding, the overtaking of the water in the land. Now, as we know now, which maybe we didn't know in the past, is that the earth is 3/4 water, right? And 25% land. You understand? So at some point, the water has to level out. It is controlled by the sun and the moon. So teaches the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the scientists of today. He also taught us that at one time, the moon was part of Earth, and due to a catastrophic event, the moon was separated from the Earth, and all of the water that was on the moon is now on the Earth. And this is why the Earth is filled with 3/4 of 75% water. The human being is made of 75% water, right? Showing our direct connection. Well, where can we learn more about this at? In this book called Message to the Black Man, right? In Message to the Black Man is the complete teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as handed to him by Master Farad Muhammad personally, not through a third party. This was a personal teaching. He was getting tutored and nurtured by one man in this teaching. Then that one man left him to complete the mission, which is to give us a knowledge of self, which is not a new phrase on the planet, because it's a phrase that we left behind that's written in stone in the East. It says, know thyself, right? So the days of resurrection is all about those who have been put to sleep in the West, who have been brought from the East, but constantly look to the East for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. All of this can be found in Message to the Black Man. But the first chapter of Message to the Black Man is what? Who is that mystery God? Who is that mystery God? And before today's talk is over today, we should be raised just a little bit more to understand how this all began and why. All right? In Genesis 15, 13 through 15, it reads, and he said unto Abram, who is the he? God. Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. So we are the recipients of the visitation of God, right? Considering that this prophecy is saying that the seed of Abraham, okay, well, who is Abraham? Where is Abraham from? What does Abraham look like? What language did Abraham speak? Right? That's your homework. Go find out. Why is he considered the friend of God? But Abraham was a jet black man, right? Blacker than anybody in this room. Abraham was a military strategist. He went into a kingdom to rescue Lot and his family, right? He trained captains. He obeyed God to the fullest, as we say, right? He didn't ask questions unless it was after the order was given, right? This is how he became a friend of God. So God said, I will judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. How do we know when God comes? How would you know? From our sojourn in America and our 400 years being servants to another man, he taught us that God was a mystery. How does that benefit him? By teaching us that you don't see heaven until you die. Well, I want to lift a ayat from the Holy Quran, or a verse. Chapter 2, verse 44. And do you enjoin men to be good and neglect your own souls while you read the book? Have you then no sense? What book is he talking about? In the footnotes, it says, the leaders enjoin their followers to be good because they could not remain leaders otherwise. Sounds like a job description, right? But their own lives were corrupt, which means that they don't follow the rules and regulations that they putting you on. Right. They read the book, and yet they did not follow it. How could the ignorant masses benefit by their preaching? Sister Aaliyah came up here and read the aims and purposes of the Nation of Islam, set out by God in person. No one can usurp that aim and purpose. Is that right? Every organization on the planet has an aim and a purpose. They just don't organize just to be organizing and coming to meet with one another just to talk about whatever is on your mind. You understand? When you come to the Nation of Islam, you're coming to a training of leaders. You understand? Leaders who are being raised to meet every human need that our community needs. Y'all hear me? God came so that we can build a nation, right? And for us to have a knowledge of self and benefit from our scholarship, right? So how could he be a spook if that is his aim and his purpose? Because these are tangible things that we see in reality. Y'all all right? This man right here, James L. Kruger, former Starr Professor of Hebrew Literature at Harvard University and currently director of the Institute of the History of the Jewish Bible and the Professor of Bible at Bar-Ilan University in Israel, right? He says, the God of the world's great religions. What religions is he talking about? The main three. Right, the main three. Right, thank you. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, right? All three monotheistic religions believe in the same God, right? Same God. He said the God of the world's great religions, all powerful, all knowing, invisible, and omnipresent, has been a staple of Western thought for some time. Yet, this God is not the same as the God of most of the Bible. Now, he put Western thought, right? So that means there's another thought process that's been put on top of what they gained from the East. Because everyone who we talk about and who we revere walked the land of the East. The Holy One that walked the West was God in person. All right. Yet this God is not the same as the God of most of the Bible. The God who appeared to Abraham, the God who appeared to Moses, and the other biblical heroes. That God, the God of old, was actually perceived in a very different way. Y'all follow me? Okay. So when you hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say they know who you are, but you don't know who you are, he's bearing witness. And at this time, he was an elderly gentleman. So how long has he known that? And he's in Israel, where the most powerful Europeans are on the planet. Y'all following? Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in Message to the Black Man of America, for thousands of years, the people who did not have the knowledge of the person or reality of God worship their own ideas of God. He has been made like many things other than what he really is. Because that's what we're getting at today, right? Who is God? Because if we say we believe that God is a man, then that means that there should be a different reaction in that knowledge. Right? Because you only know, I should say, the depth of your knowledge is only as good as you can manifest it. That's it. If you're not showing it, you don't know it yet. All right? All right. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for 44 years taught us that God is not a mystery. He is not a spirit. He is not a spook. God is real. He's a real live human being. Different from you and me only in that he is supreme in knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and power. This is what he taught us. Of course, this upset the Muslim world, and it upset many of our Christian brothers and sisters. Now, why did this upset the Muslim world? Why did this upset our Christian brothers and sisters? Because of the Western way of thought, right? It was the West that introduced a transcendent God. It was Greek philosophy. As they studied Eastern people, which is you and I, they saw the statues. They saw what we had been doing years into infinity before they had even walked the planet. They knew who the gods were. The force and power, right? The achievers on the planet. The goal setters. Is that right? The productive ones. Those who made things out of nothing. They saw all of this and learned from the feet of some of the wisest black people on the planet. They say that Pythagoras had to wait 40 years before they led him to the holy sanctimony to clean himself up. What does that mean? So it upset them because both of them were taught the same way, that God is a spook. So when the nation fell and Warith Muhammad took over, he introduced what? The spook God. Again, because it's easier to digest because we've been taught this for over 400 years. So now the real God is formed. Who benefits from that? God's enemies. Right? That a black man born in America, born in Georgia, who only went to the 4th grade of school, said that he met with God and God taught him night and day for 3.5 years. Then went away and left him here with a mission to raise the black man and woman in America up from the grave of mental death and ignorance, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was laughed at. He was mocked and scorned and ridiculed But white people did not laugh at him. They knew better. When war broke out in 1941, by executive order, the President of the United States had the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taken off the streets because they did not want a black man teaching black men and women the proper use of themselves. For they wanted to use our bodies to prosecute a war that was not in our interest, even as President Bush is using the bodies of black boys and girls to prosecute a war that is not in our best interest, right? If you don't know who you are, you can be used as a tool and as a slave, right? This is why the devil keeps our people illiterate, so he can use them as a tool and as a slave. And when we say devil, I don't want you to automatically picture a white man. Devil is an evil, wicked person who manipulates anyone to get them to do what they want them to do, to practice evil and that which contradicts good. You understand? Anybody can keep you ignorant so they can use you as a tool. A black man can do that. A Chinese man can do that. An Asian man can do that. And of course, we know a white man can do that, right? So don't get fooled in 2024 because our people are ignorant, right? And we've been taught how to take advantage of one another. That's a skill that we have down pat. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us that this book, the Bible, in the book of Revelations, it says when the seventh angel sounds, the mystery of God will be finished. Revelations 10 and 7. Mystery means that which is unknown. Do you mean to say that God was created all of this wonder? God who has created all of this wonder is a mystery? That an angel will have to sound? And when that angel speaks, the mystery of God will be finished? Why does the Bible say God will come? Where has he been? Why does the Quran speak of the days of Allah? Where has Allah been for all those other days? I thought every day was his. Why would you make a specific and particular reference to the days of God, right? So the mystery of God, who made him a mystery? European philosophy, Greek philosophy, Western scholarship made God a mystery. Why? Because you the God. That's really what it's all about. You are the Elohim, the Allah. It's us. You understand? So if you don't know who you are, then you can't claim what is rightfully yours. And you can't be who you are born to be, which is God, a human being that can exert force and power, right? Who can bring about his or her will and desire at any given moment. Independent God. Is that right? So we should be an independent people. Y'all with me? So God is a mystery up until this certain point. Now, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches in Message to the Black Man, that the book of Revelations is basically the whole story, right? How the devils were created, how we went into slavery, and how this thing is going to end at war, right? It doesn't really go into heaven. It ends in war, right? And then there are a group of people who they say are righteous singing a song that nobody had heard before, right? Or talking a language that nobody could understand because they are so engrossed in Western philosophy and the way that things are ran over here, right? And even in the East, those who are ran by the European nations. So God is a mystery. So the question is asked, where has God been and where is he coming from? The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out to us in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verses 3 through 13. Now, if you need to take pictures, you can take pictures. Because I come up here to teach for our benefit. You understand? Not for you to just hear what I sound like. And the benefit is what? That we are moving in a group. We are progressing as a group. And we appreciate each other as a group, right? And we take the responsibility as a group. You understand? Even though you got student minister, captain, and this and all that, we take the responsibility as a group. You understand? And in truth, everybody should get a chance, if you got your ex, to sit in one of these positions. Student minister, captain, lieutenant, you should house this position one time in your lifetime. It should, in my opinion. You understand? Because that way you'll have a greater appreciation. Because if everybody in here being a captain, everybody in here being a minister, everybody been in here being a secretary, then you understand. It's easier to take group responsibility. Right? But if I had the attitude that I'm going to sit here forever and nobody else is going to get a chance to get up here and speak, then I'm not really interested in the Nation of Islam. I'm only interested in myself and how I benefit, right? So the Bible says God came from Timon. Now, did God have to come? He could have just sat around and let us die off, right? And the Holy One from Mount Paran. These are places on earth, right? His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. So this is saying that God has a geographical location on our planet where he is coming from, right? Y'all with me? Okay. Now, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this on page 7 and 8 of Message to the Black Man, right? Which is the first chapter, dealing in the first chapter of Message to the Black Man. Why is this such an essential or obligatory knowledge that we have to comprehend in order to really understand that God is a man? Because if you don't understand that, everything else is out the window. According to the dictionary, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, Timon, or T-Man, a son of Esau by Adah, Genesis 36, 11, 15, 42. And in 1 Chronicles 1 and 36, now if Habakkuk saw God come or coming from the son of Esau, then God must be a man and not a spook. That's plain, right? That's plain. If Habakkuk's prophecy refers to some country, town, or city, if there be any truth at all in this prophecy, then we can say that this prophecy saw God as a material being belonging to the human family of the earth and not to a spirit or ghost. In the same chapter and verse, Habakkuk saw the Holy One from Mount Paran. This is also earthly. Somewhere in Arabia. Here, the Bible makes a difference between God and another person who is called the Holy One. Which one should we take for our God? For one is called God, while another one is called Holy One. The Holy One, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. Where did he say that Master Farad Muhammad came from? The holy city, Mecca, right? Where the wisdom and knowledge of the black man first began, right? Where's Mount Paran at? In Arabia, right? Near Mecca. I know they don't do geography no more in schools, but you can Google it, all right? Google Paran, so you'll know exactly where it is. Master Farad said, you have yet to see me in my holy garments, right? As the history is written, it is said that when he arrived in New York, that he sat on a curb and wept and just cried at the condition of his father's brothers. and sisters. He referred to us as his uncle, right? But he is the God that was sent to save and seek out that which was lost. That says in the book of Ezekiel that he'll search the earth for us. Why didn't he already know where we were at? These are questions that as you study, you need to answer for yourself. All right? In the dictionary, it says when we use the personal pronoun he, it says what? That it refers to what? That male one who is neither speaker nor hearer, or he is my father, him, his, it, she, or they, right? This is a personal pronoun. So when we look at the Bible, which was diligently revised and edited by King James, for the benefit of becoming a supreme slave master and holding the secrets and keys to who the slaves really are in the book. Matthew 24:27 says, for as the lightning cometh out of the east, where is it coming out of? The east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So Jesus is prophesying of a man coming out of the east who will be a great light for us, right? Light is symbolic of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. A great teacher is coming among us in the west. In Revelations 19:16, it says, and he on his vesture and on his thigh. Oh man, he's got a thigh. A name written, King of Kings. So he got tattoos. How else is it written on his thigh? And Lord of Lords, right? What is a king and what is a lord? A king is a governor over a kingdom, right? A lord is a supreme teacher. Is that right? So he's saying that God is coming. He's a supreme teacher, and this is his kingdom who he's coming to straighten out. Isaiah 59:1, it says what? Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. Describing the attributes and characteristics of a what? Of a what? Of a what? Of a what? Of a man. So if God is a man, and we are saying that he appeared unto us as a man, and then we have a 90-year history of a success record of a man following another man's instructions. And as he followed those instructions, he became successful. So you can't be a leader if you don't know how to follow. And you can't be a follower if you don't submit to a set of instructions. You understand? So he has a hand, he has an ear, he has a thigh, and he has a tattoo on his thigh with words. Isaiah 1:20 says, but if ye refuse and rebel, because that's what we're going to do, ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. Building up the characteristics of a man, right? But if you refuse and you become a rebel, he says you will be destroyed by the what? By the sword. So there's only a certain amount of time that we got to get this right. Because if we were in a real Islamic society, and as it says in the book that Allah is going to rule, in the Bible it says he's going to rule with an iron fist. A sword is made out of what? Steel and iron. Forged, right? Sharpened. And we know what the Muslims do with the sword. Or with the guillotine. Is that right? If you are caught not following the rules and regulations, right? Right. So Allah appearing unto us is a mercy because he's given us time to get this right. You don't think he know that we live under a rebel? You don't think that he understands and is taking into the account of how long it's going to take for some of us to be raised up in degrees and levels to try to clean ourselves up, right? You don't think that he's taking into account that he's got to remove the devils off the planet in order for you to fully show your own power? So it's a mercy, right? But you got to believe that God appeared in a man. And how do we know? By your actions. That's it. By the actions of the one who say that they believe. Mere belief accounts for nothing unless put into what? Is that right? Is that right? And when you put it into practice as a group, then we take group responsibility, group effort, group success, right? But when those individuals sneak among us and they have their own objectives and agendas, that's when we have to be so wise to know that they're not with us. And stop following every Tom, Dick, and Harry based on a position. Because that makes it easy. If I'm the enemy, all right, bro, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to make you the minister of this. And you go in and you teach this. Well, who's going to make me the minister? My man is over this. Don't worry about this. He going to do this. You understand? That's how simple it is. And you make sure you say Farrakhan's name 1,000 times. Because that's how you get them. They don't practice it. They just talk it. Because if they practice it, then they would know it, and it would be difficult for an enemy to sneak up among them. Is it difficult for an enemy to sneak up among an ant? Let's just deal with the ant. Enemies just can't come into the ant mound because they're doing what they believe in. They're practicing their belief. You understand? So you stick your head in there if you want to. You're going to find whose house that is, right? Same way in here. You got to practice it. You can't be a toy soldier. You understand? You know, back in the day, I guess in the 60s and 70s, they had the little soldiers that, you know, with the flat bottoms and, you know, you can put them on vibrating surfaces and they'll move around, you know? That's how easy it is to move some of us around. You just got to vibrate the surface a little bit because your foundation is weak. Is that right? So in Exodus 33 and 11, it says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend." Moses getting instructions, right? In Numbers 12, 5 and 8, it says, "Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud. He stood at the entrance to the tent and summoned Aaron and Miriam." He gonna call you out, right? It's plain God is a man. "When the two of them stepped forward, he said, 'Listen to my words.'" He's coming to give some instructions. "When there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, revealed myself to them in a vision. I speak to them in dreams, but this is not true for my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face clearly and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord." Right? And the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is a man unto like who? Moses. Said that God spoke to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad for what? 3 years. How many months? 4 months. And he taught him how? Night and day. Right? He was his personal tutor. Did he get paid to tutor him? He will on down the line. You understand? But he knew what he had when he saw him. Is that right? But the point is, his intervention in our affairs is in the form of a man. Right? All right. Now, let's look at this. The definition of anthropomorphic, because this is the term that they use in scholarship. So you got to know what that means. It describes thought of as having a human form or human attributes. All right, just remember that word, anthropomorphic. All right. In Message to the Black Man, page 6, we still on chapter what? 1. It says, "God is a man," the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, "and we just cannot make him other than man." right? Lest we make him an inferior one. For man's intelligence has no equal in other than man. His wisdom is infinite, capable of accomplishing anything that his brain can conceive. A spirit is subjected to us, and not we to the spirit. All right. So let's look. I don't want to spend too much time on that. That's kind of straightforward, right? Now let's look at this white man. In his book, The Introduction to the Islamic Theology and Law, page 92. So you can go read it for yourself. His name is Igdaz Goldzai. He's after the gold, right? He says, their foremost concern was to wipe out the anthropomorphic conceptions of traditional orthodoxy. Who is there? Who is he talking about? All right? Which they saw incapable with a dignified conception of God. Y'all got it. Orthodoxy would not agree to any but a literal understanding of the anthropomorphic and anthropomorphic expressions in the Quran and traditional texts. God sees, hears, he moves to anger, he smiles, sits, stands. He even has hands, feet, ears. Such matters to which there are frequent references in the Quran and other texts, meaning the Bible, must be understood according to the letter. The Hanabite school in particular fought for this crude conception of God, which they considered the Sunnah. God being a what? A man. He said their foremost concern was to wipe out the anthropomorphic conceptions that God was a man. Who benefits from this type of teaching? Western philosophy, Western rulers who are trying to rule those who are the descendants of this anthropomorphic God, or this man God, or this man and woman God. Do you understand? All right. Plato, who is one of the Greek philosophers, said God is transcendent, the highest and most perfect being, and one who uses eternal forms and archetypes to fashion a universe that is eternal and uncreated. Among the divine forms, the good represents a supreme reality. Y'all heard some of this before, right? If you study in Islam, you done heard some of this before, right? When you're reading the scholarship, that's why we got to break it down so that you understand what they're talking about. They're talking about God being a man versus God being a spook. That this earth just popped out and all of this stuff just came out of nowhere. And God is a spirit that created it. This is what they're saying. And this is what the slaves have been taught. And this is what 85% of the slaves believe. Now, when I say slaves, it's more than just the black people in the West. It's the original people in the West. You understand? In the Orthodox world of Islam today, Allah is created in the terms of divine transcendence. That's what they use. All right. Which ultimately implies that he is what? Invisible, immaterial, and unlike anything that exists within the physical world, right? Any mention of Allah as physically existing or anthropomorphic in nature is regarded as tasbah, liking God to his creation, and is considered by most practicing Muslims to be un-Islamic, and charges one who teaches or advocates such a concept guilty or or disbelief or shirk, associating others with God. So they say this, right? But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went on a world tour, and they know what he believed. And he went to the scholars and debated and showed them this isn't something that they didn't know. You understand? This is something that had been transformed into this mystery God system. But they know God is a man. The devil cannot fool you if he don't know. He got to know both sides. That's why he mixes falsehood with truth. You understand? So he's got to know the truth. Right? So this is how they come at us when you meet one. If you happen to say Oh, I'm with the nation. You just got to say you with the Nation of Islam. Usually you just give them the greetings. Is that right, Brother Wilbur? And keep it moving, right? But if you on your gangbang mission, you may want to, you may be on some other thing. But let's look at the scholarship, though. That's backing up the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam. This person, Dr. Joseph Van Hest, Professor Emeritus at the University of Tübingen. Oh, Stevie Wonder. Affirms that even though a transcendent model of God has captured the Muslim world, when reviewing its history, we can find in the early Muslim orthodoxy the belief that God resides in human form. Thus he reports. Now this is Prophet Muhammad he's talking about, right? Prophet Muhammad did not believe in a spook God. Okay. He says anthropomorphism was not a hearsay at that time. It was not sectarian. It was part of the Muslim orthodoxy, or the way that they believe. A model thought to be sufficient or even ideal for explaining God's unity. This is out of a book called The Youthful God, Anthropomorphism in Early Islam, page 5. And when you go in there, it talks about how God would come in the West and he would look youthful, that he would come beardless. Kind of reminds you of the picture that we got of Master Farad Muhammad, right? So you got to study what we got, so what we have, or what he brought us. So when you keep elevating your knowledge and you start searching the planet for knowledge, you're going to see that we were taught right and exact. You understand? Now, Prophet Muhammad said in this book, which is called his sayings, all right, or the Hadith. Prophet Muhammad is quoted as saying, Allah created Adam in his image. 6 cubits, about 30 meters in height. 60 cubits, thank you. When he created him, he said to him, go and greet the groups of angels sitting there and listen what they will say in reply to you. For that will be your greeting and the greeting of your offspring, Adam. Adam said, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. They replied, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and mercy be unto you. So they increased wa rahmatullah, the prophet added. So whoever will enter paradise will be of the shape and picture of Adam. Since then, the creation of Adam's offspring, i.e., the stature of the human being, is being diminished continuously up to the present time. But Adam is made in the image of who? Of God, right? And then he gives a height of God because he's like a direct replica. You know how they having the holograms and you stand there and then there's just another one. They got this on your phones. They got a little app on your phone that'll do this, right? And then you'll move to the side and there's 2 of you. One is a hologram and one is the real you, right? This is what he said Adam was like. You got me. So did Prophet Muhammad believe in a spook God is what I'm trying to get at. Not at all, right? So majority of the Muslims from the East that you'll meet at the gas station, at the tire, they're not studying. They just praying. They're practicing, right? For their own wickedness that they trying to control. They ain't no Muslim scholars. So you don't sit there and debate with them like that. When you see what level they on, just, oh, praise be to Allah, brother. You know? As you go too far, he may not give you a discount. You understand? But they're not sitting around studying this. Because the God came in the West to make us the cream of the crop. Right? It's up to us to teach them that which they ain't studied. That's in their book. Because they believe in a spook God. Because that's how the West rules the whole earth. You understand? Okay. Y'all with me? Okay. Another quote out of the Hadith. Now, this is considered, this is the scholarly book that they all go by, right? So it ain't one that the Muslims in the Nation of Islam are just pulling out somewhere and being like, nah, we reading this one while you reading that one. Now, we going in the book that you reading in, right? Now, it says in here in book 32, number 6,325, you got to know where to go. right? It says, when any one of you fights with his brother, he should avoid his face. For Allah created Adam in his own image. So what does the most honorable Elijah Muhammad say? Anytime you see a black man or woman, you looking at who? God. You looking at God. Is that right? So God is a man. God is a woman. You understand? It takes both of them to become one. Y'all hear me? That's what we was talking about a few weeks ago when we were talking about marriage. It takes both the male and the female to become one. We have both chromosomes, but the other chromosome ain't talking to you unless it's in the form of a female. You understand? All right. So marriage is a great benefit to us, right? And a blessing. All right. So we've established that, right? God is a man. The Bible talks about God as a man. Islam talks about God as a man. Islam even goes to the point where it tells you how tall God is, right? The white boy even go into telling you that God is going to come looking youthful and the other prophecies that they done study. Now they dominating the planet, right? This is British colonialization, right? Right. American hegemony. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in the Theology of Time lecture, he says, people have been believing that something other than a human being is God. Now, this is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad just said it straight at you, bruh. It's up to you to go study and figure it out. He done already did all this study. He ain't even got time to be going through all the little stuff. You got to put in the work too. You understand? He said, now they are face to face with the proof that God is nothing other than a man. You can't prove otherwise. If you want to try all night, we have it written in the book that as it was in the days of Moses, so shall it be in the day of the Son of Man. Who is the Son of Man, Mr. Muhammad? We all are sons of men. But this Son of Man is different from all of the other sons. This God, whom I call your attention to today, is the Son of a Man. You used to hear this from the Christian pulpits, and you had many theories about that Son of Man. What that actually means is that God, who has the power to bring in judgment over the made man, is also a made man, is the son of a real man. That's the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is the core of our teaching. This is the fundamental belief of those who say that they are a member or believe in the teachings of the Nation of Islam. Do you understand? That God is a man. Point number 12. This is what was attacked in the later years of 75. Point number 12. That God is a man. What is point number 12? Well, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had it on the back of the newspaper. In the Final Call newspaper that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has today. And you should go read this one. We got the PDF on this one right here. This one, where it talks about why and all the conspirators that was involved in taking down the glorious times of the Nation of Islam at its zenith. Now, I want you to imagine if that never happened, even though we know it had to happen. Imagine if it never happened. Where would we be as a people? But it had to happen. Because even at that, it was so much jealousy, so much envy. People got their own agendas. They seeing how much money the nation is making. You know what I'm saying? Those believers who were consistent at making this happen. So that was the test, so we'll know. Is it going to happen again? Absolutely, it's going to happen again. We got that newspaper on PDF. We'll get it to you. So it says, point number 12, he said, and I quote, this is Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we believe that Allah came in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and Mahdi of the Muslims. And lastly, we believe that there is no God but Allah, and that he will set up a government of peace wherein we all can live in peace and brotherhood. Y'all with me? So he bore witness that Master W. Farad Muhammad came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. Then he walked you through the scriptures on why he believed in that way. But then he said he is the Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims, right? The world traveler and the one that's coming to guide us back into reality. Is that right? That's what Messiah means. A world traveler, an anointed person. We went over this several weeks ago for those who have been coming to class of what Messiah means and what the Mahdi means, right? Y'all remember that? Go back in your notes, because I know y'all take copious notes. So you can see what date that we talked about that on, right? Because again, I don't get up here unless it's for your benefit. I'm not just teaching for you to hear me talk.
That's right.
If that's the case, we can just put on the tape. You understand? So these lessons are scaffold. They're built on top of each other. All right? So when he says Messiah of the Christians and Mahdi of the Muslims, we're looking for a special man that's going to come among us, right? And guide us, right? A self-guided one that's anointed with the power, right? And lastly, we believe that there is no God but Allah, which is a title, right? Not his name. And that he will set up a government of peace wherein we will all live in peace and brotherhood. Now, and sisterhood, I add. But what does that mean? Live in peace in brotherhood. A brotherhood and a sisterhood has tenets to it. It's not just because you're nice to me that you are my brother. There's principles to being a brother. There's principles to being a sister. You understand? When you say, am I my brother's keeper? That's a question. You understand? When my brother is in need, are you there to help? Do you understand? Or my sister? If my brother or my sister is widowed, do we take care of the family? That's a brother. That's a sister. Do we check up on them? There's tenets to it. You understand? It's not just because you have a good memory and you can recite. Y'all with me? Okay, let's stick to the subject. Another scripture out of the Bible says, Psalms 82 says, God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Now, this is God talking to the gods in a congregation, a group of people. You understand? And he's asking this group of people questions. Could this be the questions that Master Farad was asking them when they came to the meetings in 1930 and 31? It could be. Because this is God asking the gods questions. How long you going to be weak, bro? How long you going to watch this and not do something about it? Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Free them from the hand of the wicked. How do you free a slave? You got to give them knowledge. You got to give them a thorough knowledge of self, right? That's the first step. They do not know, nor do they understand. He's telling you that the people that we're trying to free are ignorant, blind, deaf, and dumb. Y'all hear me? Now again, this is God standing in the congregation of the mighty, us, giving a lecture to the gods and asking them questions. Because they don't believe that God is a man either. They say they do, but in the back of their mind, right here, it ain't came all the way to the frontal lobe yet. It's still kind of back here. They don't believe in the tenets of the brotherhood yet, because God is all about the brotherhood and the sisterhood and how it relates with one another. That's what it's all about, right? So he says they do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness, right? So we looked at, I know we gave a lecture like this before, where you see when a person is ignorant, how the x-rays look on their mind. And when a person is receiving knowledge, it lights up. You understand? When they're actually learning. It's called brain-based learning. Every educator in the state of Texas has to take the class on what it means to be a brain-based learner. You understand? So when someone is actually learning something and they're not walking around, like it says here, in darkness. This is God talking to the fruit. All the foundations of the earth are unstable. Who are these foundations? Who is the original man? Right. That first line puts away everything, right? Everybody who can turn dark under the sunlight, who got brown eyes. We are the most diverse people on the planet, so we're going to have hazel, we're going to have blue. I'm talking about Africans. You understand what I'm, those who are called Africans, or Tamari, whatever you want to call that landmass. All right? But he says all the foundations of the earth are unstable. Then God says, I said you are gods. Why did he have to say that? And honestly, what word did they use in translation? Was it Elohim? Was it Allah? You know, if you got the Schofield Bible, it'll tell you at the bottom in the footnotes of what the translation was, right? But he said, you are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High, but you shall die like men, right? So in this, he's admitting that God is a man and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all nations. But we can't inherit nothing if we blind, deaf, and dumb, and ignorant. And if we follow the devil. And if we are not all in, totally engaged in this process that we call in the Nation of Islam. It's easy for people to sneak up in us because we're not in tune like the ants. That was my example, right? You got to at least be in tune like an ant to keep mischief and troublemaking out. All right. You got to have a strong stiff arm. But your stiff arm is going to be weak if all you do is put on the uniform and sit on the bench. And you don't come to practice or work, but you got the uniform on. So you can say you part of the team. But they got you, all the starters, your number is probably 99. You're not even in the starting lineup, right? And you satisfied with that. But that ain't what God set this up for. Everybody has to be totally engaged, right? So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says what? There are no big I's or little U's in the Nation of Islam. Yeah, we set up in ranks and we all got different responsibilities and all of that. That's cool. But we all have a responsibility because this is a group effort with group achievement and group responsibility. That's it. That's what makes you successful. Us successful, right? Again, it will be somebody else that'll be doing this later on down the line. And I'm going to be sitting where you sitting at looking at him. You understand? But what is my responsibility when I'm in that position? To help guide that one, right? Like other organizations do and other presidents that step down. They still stay in and they come back and help. So the little brother or the little sister ain't starting from zero again. You understand? That's called progress. I know it's hard for some of us to understand that word, progress. Because we haven't been in a successful environment before to understand what that looks like, feel like, and mean. Right. You understand? Right. You have to be in that. Whether you won a state championship as an athlete, or whether you went on a debate team and killed a school, you have to be successful in something to understand what progress feels like, looks like, smells like, and understand. All right? All right. All right. Last slide of the day. Okay, I did pretty good today, y'all. I tried to keep it 45 minutes, but I went a little bit over. But this is the last one. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, God does not want us following anybody today but him. Stop. I think last week I gave us a homework assignment. Where's she at? Did she text me? What page did I ask y'all to read? Man, what kind of students I got? Page 260. 260. And what's the chapter in 260? Message to the black man for all those know what I'm talking about. What's it called? Those who read it. The point I'm trying to make is, if you read it, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is quoting the messenger or the eternal leader word for word. Because in that chapter, he talks about leadership. And he talks about how we just don't need any leaders. We need divine leaders. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is breaking that down, right? So the minister comes back and says, what? God does not want us following anybody today but him, right? And the only way you can follow him is if you follow his divine leadership that he appoints. You understand? because God is training one. All right. He said he does not want us worshiping anyone today but him, right? God and God alone has come to be our leader, our teacher, our God, right? So the supreme captain, if you listen to him, he always points out, our God, Master Farad Muhammad. He always says that in succession. You understand? So there is no confusion who we talking about. Y'all hear me? Y'all listening to me, the visitors and guests? Yes, sir. Okay. So I don't want y'all to go away and say, no, this is who we pray to, bro. Because of what I just explained to you and why. Y'all hear me? Not because we just woke up today and said, okay, we're just going to start praising another man. No. We're not doing this out of ignorance. That's what you don't understand. We're doing this out of wisdom and knowledge and understanding that was brought to us. And we are able to prove that at any limit of time to the lost found in new person. Is that right? That's what the supreme wisdom says, right? Is that right, students? That's what it says, right? And we should be able to prove this, right? He says, and only those who submit their will entirely to do the will of God and bow down and humble themselves and don't try to make themselves more than what they really are. That people will worship them instead of God. Only those will be successful teachers of the people today. Don't that kind of back up what we just read in the Holy Quran, Surah 2, Ayat 44? For those who wasn't here, let's read it again so you know what we're talking about, right? In 2 and 44, in the Holy Quran, it says, do you enjoin men to be good and neglect your own souls while you read the book? Have you then no sense? You understand? Now, in the footnotes, it says what? The leaders enjoined their followers to be good because they could not remain leaders otherwise. But their own lives were corrupt. They read the book and yet they did not follow it. How could the ignorant masses benefit from their preaching? You understand? So it's clear that you have some that be faking in front of you. Whatever religion that you follow. You have some imposters, right? They know the language only. But you're not benefiting from the core principles of what the church or what the mosque or what the Jewish synagogue or whatever it was built upon. It's to do what? Build heaven on earth. Have a knowledge of self. You understand? All right. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, God is setting down all false leaders, hurling them down. Not setting them down, throwing them down. What does that look like? Y'all know what that looks like? That's when the people get so wise that now they really understand the teaching. Because it says, who is Allah? We are Allah. And so that means that who's going to set them down? We are, when we get to a certain point in the knowledge of understanding what we say we believe in. Because you won't go for that mess. It would be difficult for you to go for that. It would be very hard for you to be bamboozled. Do you understand? So you will throw them down if they don't conform. Everybody that you want to worship besides him, he'll destroy them for you to show you that none today is worthy to be worshiped but God. That's deep. Because we worship a lot of different things. Even right now. Whether it's an athlete that becomes an idol, whether it's this, whether it's that, whether it's this organization or that organization. We worship a lot of different things. But the true and living God. You know, Islam as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad isn't like the Islam in the East. Because our Islam has a mission attached to it. It's not just praying, giving in charity. being able to go to Juma and all of this, that's good for your own soul. But our Islam has a mission attached to it, right? We are supposed to go after the lost found dead, right? The mentally dead of our people and others. Do you understand? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan keeps telling us that this is a universal teaching, which means everyone will benefit from our preaching when we understand it. Does that make sense? That way we're not out of line with what the Holy Quran says, that we only say these things to remain leaders. But in our own surroundings, we are corrupt. And so no one can benefit from our teaching. Y'all hear me? We have a commercial that's going around where Brother Ishmael is saying that you can't fake this. This is the FOI commercial, right? You got to believe this in what? In your mind, heart, and soul. That's how we become successful. It really is. It really is, right? So as we continue this study of self, which is God, then we should see improvements in one another. We shouldn't be the same Muslim that we were when we first walked in the door. It should be improvements, right? It should be a progression, right? We shouldn't still be doing the same thing that they were doing in 1990. If it's progressing, right? Or even 1930, right? It should be progressing all the time, right? That's the only way you stay in business, right? We have some businesses that we go to the grocery store and we buy their products. Some of them businesses been around since slavery. 1800s, 1700s. Businesses that are still thriving today because someone followed instructions. Someone asked questions. Someone passed on the knowledge to the young one so they can keep this thing going, right? And now they're still here as a $1 trillion corporation, right? Where will we be at in the next 5 years? I'm talking about Dallas in particular. Where will we be in the next 10 years? Can we even think that far? Can we think tomorrow? For real. Because that's how we got to think. I'll end on this. When you put your children in school and they're not learning anything in front of the teacher, what are you going to do? You're going to have a conference with the teacher, right? What if that conference doesn't do any good? Then your next step is to go where? To the principal, right? The principal gets the information, and the principal is going back because, he's trying to make sure that this person can stay gainfully employed. They're on a year contract or whatever, right? So the principal is going to the teacher and being like, man, the mother of this student had visited me today, and they feel like you just giving their child grades and they can't pass a test that they're giving them at home over the same material. Let me see your lesson plans. Because that's going to be the first thing. Oh, I ain't got them right now. So it starts with what? Following productive instructions. How can you teach something if you're not preparing for it? And you can't prepare for something if you don't already have an outcome that you're trying to get to. There has to be an end result. So when Master Farad Muhammad came and he set up the class for the sisters and the class for the brothers, he has an end result in mind. He said, I should be able to look over here and see what? The best nation. Y'all know the supreme wisdom, right? That's what he said, right? What else did he say? Let me read it for you. He said I should be able to look over here and see what? It was in his instructions to the laborers, right? He said, big field to wait the wide awake man, right? To work out in. He said, I can sit on top of the world and tell everyone that the most beautiful nation in the wilderness of North America, but don't let me catch any sister other than herself in regarding to living the life and weighing properly. how to eat the live, right? Offspring. Then he says, big fields await the wide awake man to work out. Arise the dead nation by the tens. Is that what he said? Did he say by the dozens? What did he say? How do you raise people by the thousands? How many guests do we have in here today? There should be 1,000 of them in here, according to the God. So you trying to tell me that the teachings and the principles that Almighty God, Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Muhammad, left us are not sufficient enough to be successful to raise thousands of people?
Yes, sir, it is.
It is. How do you know it is? Because he showed us that it would do it. He didn't just give us an instruction without giving us an example. Is that right? Then he left one who he had trained. They was going back and forth between Detroit and Chicago, raising up the dead by the what? By the thousands. And if you know the history, they would start at 2 p.m. and end at 2 in the morning. That's how interesting the teachings were in that time to those people who were you and I, right? Woke them up. The dead nation must rise, for the time is at what? Hand. Look in your poison book, which is what? The Bible. Why is the Bible called the poison book? Because it's been diligently what? Revised and retranslated out of what? Its original tongues, right? What language do you speak? English, right? What is your original tongue? Oh, where's the students at today? These are basic fundamentals of what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. We can never forget these. We can never hesitate on these answers. You understand? This is stuff that we should just know, right? He says, you are the righteous, the best, and the powerful. This is the message from God to us. You are the righteous, right? You are the best, and you are the powerful, right? So let's raise the nations by the thousands, all right, family? So I pray that we learned something today, that said something that's beneficial for us all, or even gave you some more ammo so when you're fishing and you can go straight to our core teaching that God is a man. You know, you ain't got to give a whole lecture, but you got some ammo, right? Because if you know better, then you should do better, right? So after this, I expect us, if I ask you a question about point number 12, that you should not hesitate to answer before you come into the door, registered Muslims. We're going to stop you at the door. Who is the original man and why? You can't just walk among us and look apart. You got to be a part. You got to know something, right? You can't just be an eavesdropper or a coward, as some groups call them. You got to be a believer, a knower, and a truth server, right? So I'm going to leave you as I came before you in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. I only have 3 questions to ask today. How many of us are here for our first time today? Please raise your hand. Thank you for joining us today.